And welcome, folks, to another edition of the Michigan Football Breakdown, focus on the offense with Mr. Al Gorgeous Borges. Gorgeous Borges is ready to pontificate on all things maize and blue, ready to separate fact from fiction, to calm some fears, ease some concerns, but also, hey, shoot you the real. I mean, there are some things to be critical of. Make no mistake. There are some things to be concerned about. Not going to sugarcoat that as the Wolverines head out to the land of Troy, a place where Al cannot even hide his contempt, his disdain for the Trojans. Al, how you doing today?
Oh, Sam. They're right up there with Ohio State and Alabama. They're with, maybe one or two on my evil empire list. Okay. And not an SC fan, never have been. I coached at UCLA for 5 years and acquired a growing disdain for SC. And it's never really left me. So this is a game, needless to say, that I'd love to see the Wolverines just pound them. It ain't going to be easy, though. I'm going to tell you, they're a little bit of an enigma. They got some deals where they really look like they can move the ball. Then another time they look so soft on defense that any, JVs could run through them. And then other times they don't look too bad. I've watched several games. I watched the game they played last week. Who'd they play? I can't even remember anymore. But I watched their last three. And they do look formidable. Of course, they should. They can recruit some of the best players in the country. So this will be an interesting contest, Sam.
Yeah, they played that Illinois game, and I was surprised by their defense in that contest. I mean, offensively, they threw it around like you expect USC to throw it around. They run the football better. It was the defense that was a surprise to me. They only sacked Luke Altmaier once in that game when they went into that game leading the nation in sacks. That was the jolt. But USC can score points, and so you feel like Michigan is going to have to score some points in this contest.
No doubt.
Right?
No doubt.
So Al, let's set the stage there, because Michigan, you felt like coming off the bye, was going to be able to light Wisconsin up, and they weren't able to light Wisconsin up in this game.
No, and there's some good and some bad about the game. And now you'd like to have seen them win by 5 touchdowns. They won by 2. I mean, you win by 14 points and you don't really play your best game. That's got to make you feel kind of good. But the one thing I'm going to talk about, something that I did, a couple things that did kind of fire me up, is Donovan McCauley and Andrew Marsh. Now we've been talking for a couple of years now about the lack of productivity on the flank, and those two kids showed they got some skills. And you're going to see, and I said this in other episodes we've had here, is as the quarterback gets better, those guys are going to become more and more of a factor. But you saw a glimpse of what they're capable of, and I really was excited about that, because they made some plays that brought you out of your seats. And that was my complaint in the past here, is we just weren't getting many plays that brought the fans out of their seats. So that was really good. Justice Haynes just rolls on, Sam. I mean, it ain't a coincidence, right? I think he had, 117 yards, but he's always making a big play, doing something to make a difference in the football game. And not a little difference, a big difference. So I'm really fired up about that. The O-line struggled at times, and I think it was some verbal and physical lack of communication, on some of their combo schemes and such. Sometimes the tackle got hung out when the guard was supposed to help him, kind of made the tackles look bad at times. I'm not sure it was always their fault. So, but their pass protection was shaky. They threw I think 15 dropbacks, which is a little over the line. I don't think that's probably a few more than they wanna. I mean, you should be able to get away with throwing 15 dropbacks. Don't get me wrong, but they weren't protecting good enough to drop back that many times because the quarterback was feeling pressure. The thing I really liked is that they did adjust. They went, particularly in the second half, more pocket movement, naked sprints, dashes, things of that nature, where he was not going to always be at the same launch point, and that always presents an issue for the pass rush. Okay, they threw a couple screens, which I think were good, and something that really was effective was their sprint draw. They ran their sprint draw because guys were blowing up the field, and they ran 2 of those, and both of them hit pretty good. So I think they did a really nice job of adjusting to the fact that they weren't protecting as well as I think they'd like to. They added a little shallow cross. Remember, we said that there's a good chance you're going to see some new concepts with the bye week. They ran some multiple crosses. They weren't as productive as you'd like them to be, but they were open receivers every time they ran them. So that's a plus. The one thing that stood out to me as much as anything was the stretch play, although it was run 7 times before the end of the game. In the first half, I think it was only run a couple times. So it kind of took a back seat to some other runs, okay? And we said this was going to happen. Michigan is very much a run du jour type team every week. And this week it was inserts and duos and open zones. That was kind of their approach, and those were the plays that yielded the most yards. Something that we got to improve now, we've talked enough about it, is drop passes. We're dropping some balls that are killing some drives or not generating some explosive plays. And I had 3 in particular, and maybe other ones are arguable, but they are arguable that whether they were drops or not. But 3 for sure, all should have been caught. All should have been, big bites of yardage, and that's got to stop now. The opportunities for the receivers only come occasionally, and when they do, they've got to be taken advantage of. So that's got to get better. They threw 4 play action shots. That's about, that's a nice sweet spot there, 4 to 6 play action shots. They threw 2 screens. One was a middle screen that was really, really nice. And then they threw a little trap pass quick screen that really didn't hit as good, but they are screening more than they've screened in the past, and that's exciting. But the one thing is they're going to have every week an answer to when they're getting more pressure than they anticipated. And yeah, I remember in the box you text me, said, how do you counter that? And you run draws, you run screens, you move the pocket, you max up your protection, those types of things. And they did them all. They did. I mean, they realized what was going on in the game. And as I looked through the play calling, it kind of shifted a little bit when you realize that they weren't going to be able to sit in that pocket and go through all the progressions every time a drop back was called. So there were some things that were really good. There were some things that have a ways to go still. They're still not a finely tuned machine, but they're making progress. I think that Underwood was good, not great. But the one thing about him, Sam, even if he misses a throw, he's always a factor in the big plays. You know what I mean? He's always making something happen. It's something. Like I say, sometimes quarterback's got to bring something to the table. He's not throwing as good, or he's not running as good, or whatever. He's got to make up for it with other facets of his skill set, and he does it in every single game.
So a couple of things. You said 15 dropbacks is a little more.
Little bit. I mean, you should be able to throw 15 dropbacks, but I don't know if they're ready for that yet, Sam. That's the only thing,
So here's the thing. They thought they were ready. And
yeah,
so
I would probably too.
Yeah, and that's the point that I want to hit upon to kind of set the tone or the theme for the show. Because people were complaining about the approach. They're complaining about the approach or the game plan. And like, look at what Sharon is doing. Look at what she's doing to the offense. What he was doing to the offense is he was trying to pass all over Wisconsin's ass. That was the game plan. They came out with a flea flicker. They started Andrew Marsh. They had 15 dropbacks. They were going to, or so they thought, light Wisconsin up. And that was going to be the answer, so they thought, to what teams were going to try to do to them because they were running the football so well. And they had to pivot, what you call a battlefield decision, because they couldn't protect.
No.
That's what happened. That's the game plan. They are blowing us up. Every time we drop back, someone is in the quarterback's lap. Now, the positive, I'll draw a couple of positives from this, Al. They have been able to find a number one receiver. Number one is a guy.
He's a guy. Yeah, he's a guy.
Donovan McCulley is a guy. And then I've been talking about Andrew Marsh. Al, you got to let your thoroughbred be a thoroughbred. He didn't make. I don't know how many minuses you have from him. For him, he didn't have a lot of minuses. But even if he does, you got to let him play through them because he's going to make a lot of plays on the other side to make you right.
Yeah, you got to take the bitter with the sweet. I had him with a couple of minuses, but you got to you got to know what you're dealing with. You know what I mean? Is it worth a couple of breakdowns? And I think he is, because he looks like he can generate some offense, and they need that with their outside receiver. So I don't have any problem with it. And I'm saying that maybe 15 passes, dropbacks is more than one, but I probably would have thought the same thing. I mean, at this point, you want to believe 2 weeks of practice, everybody's, feeling pretty good about themselves after the last couple games. But they are more formidable defense than I think was anticipated. We knew they were good on the run, but they were not bad on the pass, and that they could get pressure. Another factor too, Sam, is they threw 19 RPOs. Now that's the highest I've seen. But they've been high in every game. I think it was like 15 or 16 a week ago. But the RPOs sometimes are a big factor, sometimes not as much. Sometimes you may run 10 of them, don't do a lot, and then on the 11th one, you fake a stretch play, pull a stretch play out, you throw a slant to McCulley, who takes it to the house after making a great run. So the RPOs are playing a big part in how they attack the defense, a big part. Now, it's not always readily evident, and it may take a little time, but they are huge to how they're going about their business.
So the other piece that I'll take positive from this is, man, Bryce wasn't bothered. What do I mean? Of course, he was affected by it. The rushed him, but he wasn't. What I mean is, he wasn't rattled. That's what I mean. He wasn't rattled. Watch some of these other quarterbacks who are supposed to be guys like Drew Aller, Arch Manning, K. Klubnik. None of these guys are ever going to be what they were billed to be, right? And why? I mean, they have all the physical characteristics, and mentally they melt in the moment. It's why I was convinced. Did I predict that? I did not predict Penn State was going to lose to UCLA. I will not take that credit, right? But I was absolutely convinced they were never a national title contender, ever, ever, ever. James Franklin is a choke artist, and his quarterback, sorry to say this about a college, he is a bigger choker than his coach. The combination of the two is never going to work. And Arch, I was on the bandwagon. I admit, I believe the hype. He has a big arm. He's a good, not great athlete. He can run around some, but he's not a great athlete. But with the pedigree, Al, the combination of the two, I believed that he was going to be a guy.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah.
I saw the first the Ohio State game. I could see right away he's not a guy.
The moment was too big for him. The moment was too big for him. It was. Now that doesn't mean that'll always be like that, but that moment was too big for him.
Coach Borges, you have coached football longer than I have been alive. And what I am saying to you is, when I watch, it wasn't what was happening when the rush was on. It was when he had open receivers time after time after time. When he's missing open receivers, if he can't do that, and he's a Manning with all the training that he's had, if he's a Manning and he can't do that, sure, he'll get better, but he'll never be Peyton. He'll never be that. It just won't happen. Contrast that with Bryce, and you watch how he reacts to pressure. You watch how he reacts to the moment. He had two rushers bearing down on him in the moment. He split those two guys and he's up the field. It doesn't affect him like that. Like, he can handle that pressure and not be rattled. Like, you can see that right now. You can see that right away. Like, these are things that you can notice, that you can take away as positives from this game. You can take away positives from this season. So I love that about him. And yet, Coach Borges, and this is where I want you to take it away. Man, if you're getting pressure like that, I mean, you got to figure something out. I understand, and you're going to get into the adjustments you can make game plan wise, but you need to tell me, like, where was this pressure coming from? Was it just the tackles? that we need to be
No.
talking?
They had pressure from a lot of different spots. Some of it came from the tackles, though. I don't think there's any question about that. But here's the thing, Sam, about him is unlike the guys that you mentioned, Arch Manning and some of the other guys, he is not completely dependent on his arm to beat you. Okay. So he is very confident in his skills and his ability to get out of a jam where I think some of those guys, they can, but not as easily as he can. He's a big, imposing, fast guy that's going to be hard to get down, and he's slick enough to move his feet and buy time to either run or throw. So even if the protection isn't great, or maybe he isn't throwing as well as he'd like to be throwing, he has other ways to get you. You know what I mean? And they show up in every game, even in the games he doesn't play as well. So I think that's the difference between him. And add to that, in every game I've seen this year, I have yet to see him. And there it is right there. Bryce unflappable for a young dude. He just does not seem to be perturbed by anything around him. I always watch the quarterback after something bad happens. And that's one of the advantages if you're not a booth coach and you're a sideline coach. I found when I was on the sideline that was something that I could spot right. Oh, this guy, I don't know how much he really wants to go back out there. You know what I mean? And then other times guys are chomping at the bit to get back there. And it's like, let me back out there. You can sense that they're not bothered. Their competitive juices, that meter goes up rather than get scared. You know what I mean? So, and he just appears to me that he just doesn't look like it bothers him that much. And one thing I want to say, and we talked about this the other day, and not enough has been made about this. He is not turning the ball over. He has one interception. A freshman now has one interception in the first, what have we played? 5-6 games now? I mean, that's just unbelievable. I mean, if he was never throwing, I could say, well, he never throws the ball much. Shouldn't throw many. But they're throwing the ball enough where he's exposed and could make some crucial mistakes. I haven't even seen him throw a lot of balls that could have been intercepted. You know what I mean? And that, oh my goodness, that makes such a difference. Makes such a difference. So when you go back and you say, you're not giving the defense their offense short range opportunities to score because you're not, now he's had a fumble or two, but goodness gracious, now he ain't gonna be perfect.
Mhm.
But that part of it, I can't sell that as any stronger as a key part of their success to this point.
So when you talk about it wasn't just the tackles, the mental pieces can be fixed. Communication issues, like what was happening on those plays, you think? Speculate.
Well, a couple times guys got beat. There weren't any exchanges on the movements. It was a variety of things, but they weren't things that you can't either. You could actually scheme to get the tackles some help. Now, getting the guards and centers, that could be a little harder to do, but you can scheme to get the tackles some help by shaving guys, or chipping guys, doing things where they don't have to block the guy all by himself. And as long as you've got at least one back in the backfield or a tight end somewhere, that's always available for you to do. So as we go forward, we have seen a little bit of this in other games. This is not completely news, right? This is not completely news, but it was always a little something different. And it wasn't always resulting in a sack. It was resulting in a flush or a scramble or whatever that was throwing the timing of the route off or forcing the quarterback into a premature improv. Like I say, we got a good one to do that, but we sure would like to hit some of these by structure. For example, they put in a shallow cross this last week, and it was open. I mean, that cross formation, just how you draw it up, but he didn't really even get a good look at it. It was going to be a throw and catch. It was going to be a throw and catch and run play that was going to probably yield a pretty good gain, and they couldn't get to it. So just keep working on that stuff and figuring out ways to help guys that aren't as good at pass protectors, and keep continuing to work on your exchanges on movements inside and such. And it'll get better, I think. I hope it'll get better because when you can run the ball well, Sam, if you can stand a 3rd and long, and they had a lot of 3rd and manageables in this game. They did, and it wasn't like there was some 3rd and longs, but there was some 3rd and manageables. Had 2 3rd and ones, I think we didn't get. So when you get in those situations, you got to succeed. That's what you want. You're playing with the change. You're not playing against them. So all those factors, but all told, the second half is much better than first, and it's another game of experience for the quarterback, another game of experience for the 5 guys working on the offensive line. I got to believe it's going to improve it better because in Southern California, that ain't going to be easy.
Yeah, man. They the way Illinois neutralized the rush is they ran the football because they were having offensive line.
They had a great plan. I watched that game start to finish on both sides of the ball, and they had a really good plan, Illinois.
Well, they got sacked 7 times by Indiana, remember?
Yeah. They didn't get sacked 7 times by SC, and I think SC is a better pass rushing team. But they ran the ball on them so well, those situations didn't come up as much.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a way to keep them off their quarterback. Made a whole lot of sense, or makes a whole lot of sense for Michigan to be thinking along those lines. And to your point, I highly doubt 15 dropbacks is a part of the game plan this week. Right?
I don't know. You hope you don't have to use 15 dropbacks, but really they live, and I know Chip, he loves play passing. Okay. They're going to live in the play action world on early downs, particularly. Obviously, those are the most. It gives you the best shot for success if you can throw it on 1st and 2nd down. But they got to live in that play action world, and in play action, you could be susceptible to protection there too. But people are playing to run more. It's just people are more inclined to get a slower rush when you're faking than they are when it's a drop back and there's no threat at all of run.
Yeah, man. And so it was a bitter pill for them to have to swallow. A lot of coaches fall in love with their stuff and say, well, they can't, it's just the players. They can't do my stuff. They can't do my stuff. And they keep calling it. Credit to Chip for you got to pivot. You got to do something different to try to get some things working. That was just one problem though. Then you had the drops, Al. Now there were 3 drops in the game. I credit Samaj. He bobbled it, and then he caught it, and then he dropped it, and then he fell on it. So
he caught it about 4 times, yeah. But see, the problem with that, it's nice. I give him credit for the catch, but it kills the run after catch, and you got to have run after catch. I can't emphasize that enough. That's got to be part of the equation. Now, and sometimes it's not a big run after catch. Sometimes it's just a yard or 2. But those yard or 2s, as you get closer to the goal line, make a difference.
So when you're in a situation like that, Al, and I'm sensitive to that these guys, listen, it's a tough job, highly critical job, or a job wrought with a lot of criticism. And so I'm not one of those people that berates players for, when they are having a tough time. I'm not that guy. At the same time, it's a bottom line business. And so they are in a situation as a position group where if the drops continue, as a coaching staff, they're going to have to figure out a rotation that works better than this, whether that's shortening your rotation, playing more 12 personnel. This was Denard's recommendation was,
Denard liked 12 personnel. I know he liked 12 personnel, and most quarterbacks like 11 personnel. He didn't, because he knew 12 you could run and pass in.
Yeah, he said if you can't find 3 receivers that are, he said, do you have 2 tight end? He said, what was his exact statement? He said, is your number 2 tight end better than your number 3 receiver?
That's a great analogy. But see, they're a little shorthanded there too. That's the problem, is because Hogan has not been available, and not that the other tight ends are pretty good players, but probably not ready to contribute like they will later on. So 12 is a little limited, but I think it's a great answer, particularly if you're a good running team. And they haven't balked at using 12 personnel in the past. And I don't think Chip Lindsey will either, but he's got to justify it, right? He's got to say, okay, I'm not going to put him in there just to put him in there. They got to be able to bring something to the table that's going to help us.
So the reason why I bring that up, because I didn't know the answer to this. Is Chip a 12 personnel guy?
Oh yeah. I mean, Chip is an every personnel guy. I charted his plays just to see how much he'd have changed, if at all, when he was at North Carolina. They don't blink an eye about using 12 personnel. They're in there, but I think there they had a better third receiver probably, so they were in 11 quite a bit. But he's not averse to playing 12 personnel, and he knows what Michigan's been in the past. So he's that's been a culture here, and as long as you can get the productivity you're looking for, I don't think it's a problem at all.
Yeah, and I'm not here to say that you give up on every receiver not named Donovan McCulley or Andrew Marsh. I'm not.
No. Samaj Morgan's a good football player now. Let's be clear on that. He's made some plays for this team in the past, and I think he will again in the future.
Yeah, I'm not here to say that. I am here to say that it is crunch time for them, though. Like, they have got to step up and play better than they have played, and the drops have got to. They have. I mean, it's just too consistent a theme. Too consistent a theme for this team, given the level of opposition that they're about to start playing. USC and Washington are really good football teams. That they're gonna have to score points. They're gonna have to score points against these next two clubs. I think.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna have to score in the 30s, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And I think the thing about the receiver play is, they're so often at the mercy of the quarterback, and the quarterback get them the ball. But there's just not that many opportunities for a receiver in a game unless you're phenomenal and they're throwing you the ball all the time. So you got to seize the moment every chance you get. The receivers at the mercy of the quarterback, the quarterback's at the mercy of the protection. So when all those things are clicking, when you got to take advantage of it, you got to take advantage of it, or the coach is going to find people who will.
No doubt. So it's going to be an interesting week of practice. They were able to get Andrew Marsh, and I'm going to be interested to hear your grades coming up. We're going to do that coming up, and I think they're gonna do their best to get the young fella Browder some snaps.
It's another one.
He plays the X, which is there's kind of a glut there because Kendrick also plays the X. I was talking openly, like, can you move Kendrick around and have him get some snaps at the Z as well to kind of clear some of the path? But at the end of the day, man, look, at this point, you just got to justify getting one of your most talented players, Browder, I'm talking about, getting your most talented player at that position some snaps. This is just me saying that to you as a coach, Al. When you were in that position, you look around and you got some of your veteran guys that are struggling. Don't you just get to a point where you say, okay, if my older guys aren't necessarily executing like I expect them to, don't you just say, well, I might as well play the young guy some now?
Yeah, well, that's the change of players before they change of coaches, Sam. That's a philosophy that we kind of always had, So yeah, I mean, here's your chance. You don't take advantage of the chance. We got to try somebody else. Give somebody else a chance. But you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Boy, really, there's some guys in there that are gonna produce, and there may be roles for, even though they may not be as extensive as you originally planned. Okay. But yeah, I mean, the depth charts in pencil, Sam. You know what I mean? It's easy to erase. It's not like golf where you put that score down and you got no eraser. You erase it so you can cheat. But in football, that depth charts in pencil, and it's all based on results oriented. You got to be a good coach. You got to be a results oriented manager.
Yeah. If you have questions for Al, put them in the chat now. Again, if you have questions for Al, put them in the chat now. We will start knocking them down after Al gives us his grades for the game. Again, I repeat, if you have questions for Al, Put them in the chat right now. So, Al, give us your grades. Take it away.
Well, I gave the O-line a C. I didn't think they played to the standard they want to be. Okay, I did not think there were some good things in there, some really good things at times, but for the most part, I thought there was some physical or verbal lack of communication on a few plays that really hurt them. And I didn't think the tight ends were much better, and the tight ends are usually much better, or not much better, but because they've played pretty consistently. But I gave them a C. I did not think they were fantastic. The running back, I gave a B plus. I think they continue to be productive. I gave the quarterback, I kind of debated between a B minus and a C plus, and I lean towards a C plus. But again, he can criticize the hell out of a quarterback. It's so easy to do because he's got so much on his plate. But he is responsible for so many plays, so many big plays that they make, that even with a lesser grade, it's an acceptable situation at this point because he is productive. Okay, now he's going to have to improve, and we say, he's a freshman, and it's a work in progress. But I think he will do that as everyone else improves. The receivers, I gave a B minus. Now, this was the toughest one, okay? And only the B minus because of the drops, okay? And a few blocking issues in the perimeter, too, that were there. But overall, I think the play was improved. I think the receivers are playing better. It just has to be more complete, if you know what I mean, okay? So it was not their best performance, all of them, and I'm talking about as a group. But in the fourth quarter, the latter stages of the game, they took charge of the game, and I think it was nice to see that at the end of the game really wasn't close. Okay, so hats off to them, but it's going to have to get better as we go on.
No doubt. If you have questions for Al, put them in the chat right now so we can start getting to them. A lot of them have already rolled in, so let me go back. And a little bit earlier in the show, Cameron Diggs said, Coach Borges, would you be concerned with Bryce not stepping up in the pocket, or was it because our offensive line wasn't blocking? Did you notice Bryce not stepping up?
I think he was stepping up. There was a couple of times he kind of short dropped a little bit. He quickened his feet because I think he wanted to release the ball fast, and it detoured from his pocket push. So, there were times I think that I'm always a big guy. You got to push the pocket. You got to get in the fight and all that. But he has not demonstrated an unwillingness to do that. But I think there's been times when it's been difficult, and that came up a few times in this game.
Yeah, and I just remember him, the rush getting there, and him getting up field in a hurry a couple of times.
Yeah. And don't think that doesn't get in your head too. I mean, that's something that can, once it happens a few times, it can affect the quarterback. I don't care who the quarterback is.
Artemis Robbins says, what is it called when a guard pulls to block the other side of the D line, but leaves the DE on that pulling side free to blow up the run?
Well, usually what you got, I think what Artemis is talking about, is probably a counter play where the end's being read. The guard or tackle will pull, and you'll turn that guy loose, and the quarterback will watch him to see if he closes down. That happened a couple times in the game where Bryce should have pulled one ball, and I thought he threw a bubble when he should have handed the ball off. So that can happen during the game. You can miss the read. The guy can make the play, and you're wondering, God, who's got that guy? Well, generally, if he's unblocked, it's because the quarterback's looking at him and trying to read off him.
Okay. All right. Next one comes from Steve Horn, who says, would love more play action pass to mitigate some of the drop back game troubles. Always want more play action or run action plays. What do you think of that, Al?
You're here. I vote yes. Now, remember a week ago, I believe it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I can't remember. They threw, I think, 7 or 8 play action passes. They took some shots in one of the games. So, and they took 4 shots down the field in this one, or at least called 4 plays that were designed to go down the field. And I believe one time they had another play action pass called, and because Bryce saw that there may be some pressure coming, he changed the pass protection. I think the one that McCauley caught on the sideline, the one that might have been replayed, I don't remember. But I believe he changed the protection on that. That was supposed to be a play action pass. I think it was supposed to be a trap pass. So they changed that. So that would have been another one. So because there are times if you think they're pressuring, you don't want to be in play pass. You want to be able to max up your protection, fill all the holes and the separation of the pass protection, and gives you a little better chance to get the ball off.
All right, let's keep it rolling as the questions are coming in at a good rate. Mr. Jones says, why are we throwing more end zone fades to McCulley? McCulley is clearly a jump ball threat.
I think you may see more. If he can continue to do what he's doing, I think you'll see more jump balls to him. Something that comes up a lot with other teams, but almost never came up with Michigan, was when you got inside the 20, okay, and you got a run play called, a lot of teams will tag an RPO and adjust a fade ball with bump and run coverage. And I see it, God, I see it every week. Michigan just hasn't done that. But I'm telling you, Chip Lindsey is willing to do that. If he knows that the guy we're throwing it to has got a better than average chance to pull it down. So don't be surprised if that comes up. I don't like doing that too much because you waste runs sometimes to guys that could, gain 4 or 5, 6 yards or maybe a touchdown by throwing what could be a low percentage throw. But if we got a guy that can go get it, stay tuned. So I think that may come up. I don't know that, but it may come up. I know Michigan has virtually done none of that in the past.
All right. Detail me straight where I get that flannel from. I need one. I got it from Wolverine.
Yeah,
boot.
you looking pretty smooth. It's the best I've seen you in a long time, and you're hard. It's hard for you to look good.
Yeah, with the Lions new era hat.
Yeah, you're good, Sam. I like it a lot.
Making that happen. All right, let's go to the next one. Ricardo Douglas says, Coach, are you noticing any deliberate play calling, sequencing, or setup plays other than play action?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think what you're seeing, in recent games, particularly, you've seen counters to the bubble, where they fake the bubble and they throw the ball. I think that happened in this game when they came run up on the bubble and they threw the ball to McCulley on the sideline. So, yeah, there are a lot of counters. Remember what we talked about before. Sometimes you got to run a few balls in there and take some licks so you can set up other plays that can get you big bites. And I think they're doing that. They do that in every football game, and they did it in this last football
game. Okay. Let's keep it rolling to the next one. This is a great point. And this is an interesting question to ask you as a play caller, Al. So Andres Martinez says, I know there's a lot left in the season, but I feel like Michigan is going to go crazy this portal cycle. Wide receivers are going to be begging to come here. Interesting. Because I feel like there's a good chance of that if Michigan, if McCulley and Marsh, but certainly if a receiver has a successful year. I don't think it's just enough to just have Bryce or just enough to just have Bryce and pay a lot. I think you have to legitimize the offense with numbers.
Yeah, you have to present some numbers. It's so much that way now, more now than when I first started coaching. If you can't present them, particularly with the NIL, and everybody thinks you're going to be a pro football player, though very few really end up being one. But they still think that, particularly out of high school. They want to know that they're going to get opportunities to showcase their ability. And if you don't have hard evidence to prove that, it's going to be hard to get them away from what might be sometimes a lesser team, a team you wouldn't think would ever get a kid, can take it from because they say, they're throwing the ball 50 times a game. The receivers are catching, 8 to 10 passes a game. So, a lot of times they don't care if they win or lose. They just want to make sure they get showcased.
Yeah, because, man, I mean, you think about it. Think about this. All these receivers that are on teams with quarterback, like think about. I don't think Penn State has any receivers that you would want, but Texas has receivers you want. You think those guys are going to want? You think Ryan Wingo is going to stay with? I bet you Texas receivers are going to be able to be had. Clemson's these receivers are going to be able to be had. But if you aren't putting up better, if you aren't showing that you could put up numbers, because these teams are all paying, they're all paying money, but you got to show that they could put up numbers here. So you got to legitimize it with numbers. So that's why I say this is what makes it interesting, Al.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think they have to, as much as I said earlier in the show, you got to do what you got to do to win games. Like, you got to run this football and, make those battlefield decisions. But they have to make it a point to establish a receiver as a guy who puts up like big time. I would as we're in meetings, like, guys, as best we can, we got to try to get a 1,000-yard receiver. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not to the point where you're sacrificing, like, going out of your way where it might cost us a game, but to the extent that we get these numbers, like, that would be part of the game plan, to the point where it's going to help them with recruiting if they can do it.
Yeah, I always wanted to believe that a good balanced offense, it's a byproduct of a good balanced offense will get you players at every position. I know my last year at San Diego State, we had Ronnie Hillman, who was a 1,000-yard rusher. We had DeMarco Sampson, who was a 1,000-yard receiver. We had Vince Brown, who was a 1,000-yard receiver, and a quarterback who was a 4,000-yard passer. Well, hell. And then we had Gavin Escobar, who caught 40-something passes as a tight end. So when you can present those kind of numbers to the next class in, they're interested. You just don't have that very often, where you can say 4 different guys produced over 1,000 yards. But they look at it. Every recruit looks at that stuff, and they want to know how they're going to be used, and is this offense going to give me an opportunity to showcase my skills? So it's from a play caller perspective, it's a pain in the butt. I'm going to tell you that. It's a pain in the butt. I should be concerned about one thing and one thing only, and that's winning football games. End of discussion. But it's just not that simple anymore, unfortunately.
Tell the story when you had Cadillac and Ronnie Brown.
Oh, yeah, same thing. We could have lost both those guys. Both of those guys could have declared the draft and would have, and we never won 13-0. I promise you that. But with that situation, you had 2 backs who in their history had rushed for over 1,000 yards. Ronnie Brown had rushed for 1,000 yards 2 years prior, and Cadillac Williams had rushed for 1,000 yards the year before I got there. And a quarterback who everybody wanted to take out of the game, Jason Campbell. So what I had to do is brainstorm how to win, use Ronnie Brown more, and the byproduct of it all was Ronnie Brown got picked 2nd in the draft, and Cadillac Williams got picked 5th. All in the first round, not to mention the quarterback got picked, I believe, 28th in the draft. So you had to really be good. But what we had to do there is we had to make Ronnie Brown a kind of a halftime fullback and kind of change the identity of that position. And it helped us. It helped us.
But you had to be intentional about it, right? Because early on,
you got
like, Coach, what's up, man?
You got to be intentional. If you think it's just going to happen, it ain't going to happen, because I made the mistake the first game. The first game we played, is I looked at the touches, and Ronnie Brown touched the ball 7 times in the game. And I went back and I go, you got to be kidding me. That's exactly what I didn't want. So we put up a list of plays on our game plan board where he was going to get the ball X amount of times. We never had a problem the rest of the year, but it was intentional. It was going to happen. They were in the opening plays, a lot of them. So we knew they were going to get called. So, yeah, I mean, it takes some ingenuity to see to it that your best players touch the ball with consistency. And like I said, if you're doing it right, the numbers will come.
Yeah, and so that's what I mean. Like, to the extent that they could do that, making sure a receiver gets in that 1,000-yard range, it's gonna help if it can help them win and help them recruit. Because it's a miracle they got Andrew Marsh. Like, man, that's a hell of Ron Bellamy catching a lot of bullets. That he got Andrew Marsh here is a recruiting feat of epic proportions. Because he did it without any evidence of an offense that would get him the ball. He did it without a quarterback because he got him committed before Bryce Underwood was
Before
in.
Bryce Underwood, yeah, that's amazing. That's
Right?
amazing.
And he got him out of Texas when he had offers from all the Texas schools. Right. So, I mean, and this is top 100 guy. So it was a fantastic recruiting job that you got to do here, which is another reason why you better be playing this dude. Like, that's why I'm like, man, play Andrew Marsh, play Andrew Marsh, play Andrew Marsh. That's why I'm standing on the table. Like, play this dude. You know
Well,
what
that's what they're doing, but he probably wasn't ready to play in the first game. But they've had a chance to bring him around, and they're using him more. And now he's going to take off, right? I mean, as long as this guy keeps playing quarterback, I think all receivers are going to take off. I think everything's going to get better and better as you go. So, and it's going to result in getting more players, whether through the portal or through high school. So, I think the future is really, really bright at that position. I think it more now than I did before. I got to be honest with you. My thinking has changed in the last few weeks.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it is. It is. And if McCulley keeps doing what he's doing, Marsh continues to come along, and the receivers, if they, if one or more of them comes around and they improve and this offense can achieve balance, it'll be a new it'll be a new reality. It's already a new recruiting reality when you consider what they have in this recruiting class. I mean, they got a top 100 guy in Zion Robinson, the top 247 guy in Travis Johnson. These are 2 4-star receivers in this class, in this cycle right now. So it's already different, but it'll be even bigger if they have a successful guy or guys on the field this year. You'll see the Red Sea will part recruiting wise, considering the kind of NIL they have, and the kind of quarterback they have. I mean, the wind will be at their sails in the portal and recruiting if that happens.
I think so. Yeah, it's just it's a funny position. In the old days, you could probably tell them, you know what, receivers aren't catching many balls because we're just not real good at that position. If you just come here, we'll get really, that don't cut it. I think people giggle at that. They have to see numbers. They have to see results. And I think you're starting to get some of that.
Yeah, what's my man's name from, forgive me, the Belleville kid went to Oklahoma who said, oh, Michigan didn't give me the time of day. Michigan tried to recruit him out of Purdue. He didn't give Michigan the time of day. Did not give Michigan the time of day. Like, sorry, you guys don't throw the ball. Skylar Bell, who went to UConn or who stayed at UConn. It's like, I would rather stay at UConn than come to Michigan.
Yeah, some guys, I'm telling you, they would rather lose and catch more passes than win and catch less. That's just the way it is. Some guys are like that in the NFL, I think, but that's just the way some people are.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to the questions. To Cameron Diggs, he says Bryce did have some high throws in the game. I mean, when you talk about his play, was it more the errant throws or was it more his reads in the RPO game that you found to be sources of his sort of missed plays on the day?
I had, the reads weren't too bad. The first minus I had on him was a read, but he had a couple footwork issues. He had a couple errant throws. He had a couple balls. One he should have pulled when the end really crashed down that RPO outside. So if somebody gap transferred to come get him, he could have flipped the RPO late. And then one time he gave the ball off, and the linebacker detached on the motion man, and he probably he actually threw the bubble, and he probably should have given the ball. But it was a combination of a few things. So all that, nothing, no one thing that stood out. Like usually when I critique the quarterback and he's got a lot of minuses, it's footwork issues. It's footwork issues because of timing shot and all that. And he had a couple of those, but it wasn't blatant. But all things that I see with that kid, you coach him. You just coach him. You can fix it, and he'll improve it. Now something else may come up because he's young. Something else may come up this Saturday and the Saturday after that. But as long as you're not remaking the same mistakes and being forced to be recoached, usually the quarterback makes progress.
All right. Next with DTWA straight up, who asked about the flow. He said, Al, are the tight ends not living up to expectations as outlets for Underwood?
Yeah, the tight ends in the Michigan game are less outlets. They're more primaries. I mean, they're usually a guy, a lot of times they're looking at first, okay? But that tight end is different. We kind of gotten spoiled with Loveland and some of the other guys they've had, or either before Loveland, where Klein, again, is a speed tight end. He's not an in and out of cut type tight end, slick on option routes and all that. He adds another phase to it. And the other tight ends are inexperienced, and Hogan Hansen hasn't really played much yet, who I think will fill some of those roles. But they are not, I won't say never, but they're not necessarily always outlet check down kind of guys. A lot of times they're the guy you're looking to get the ball to.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get to the next question, Al. It's back to a question about Browder from Jay Marion. Al, does Browder need to know the playbook for some jump balls in the red zone? He said, can you just tell him, hey, young fella, just go run a fade in the red zone?
That's something you probably don't need to read the playbook real hard on. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, sometimes just put him in there. Hey, go get it. Make it happen, Captain. You know what I mean? So, no, not necessarily. But if you want to use him more than that, yeah, he does. So,
all right. Damian H says, how does Michigan start to improve on vertically passing downfield to open up the underneath plays and run game more so they aren't as predictable offensively?
Yeah, well, you got to throw them, and they did. They did. He called a couple of 4 vertical type routes in the game, but the protection broke down. That's how you do it. You're not afraid to take the ball down the field, whether it be with inside verticals, outside verticals, which does tend to open up underneath. I mean, the one thing about throwing the ball vertical, and whether it's outside or inside, is you got to talk yourself into the call, knowing that it's not always going to be a high percentage situation, but the residual effects of it can help other pass plays, because you can't throw every ball within 5-10 yards of the line of scrimmage, because they're going to sit on your cuts, particularly in these quarters coverage with a key and a quarterback and jumping throws. And it happened in this game a time or two. And so you got to be able to try and run by him, even if you don't hit the pass.
Right. But you got to be able to protect so you can get it down there.
Quarterback is at the mercy of the protection. The receivers are at the mercy of the quarterback, and the protection too, for that matter. But it's got to be a team effort, man. A lot of components in the passing game. A lot of components in the passing game.
That's why, when you talk about the game plan and people talking about it, it's so predictable. I mean, it gets the biggest issue with that game, I thought, was the protect. I'm curious your thoughts, Al. If you had to single out the single biggest issue, what would your answer be? If you had to point out one thing that was the single biggest factor. Now, I said in the Oklahoma game, I thought it was play calling. I thought it was the unwillingness to use Bryce in the run game. In this game, I thought it was their inability to protect. I don't think it was play call or approach. It was they couldn't protect. I don't think that they weren't aggressive, or,
they started the game with a flea flicker, Sam. Okay, I mean they mixed their play calling up pretty darn good, and they're giving the quarterback an option RPO virtually every down. So I don't think the nature of the play calling's been the problem. I think the twofold issue. You want to pin it on one. I can't do it on one. I think protection was an issue. I don't think there's any question when you throw drop back passes, you're going to find out whether guys can protect, and some communication issues up front in the run game that showed up a number of times. Those are the two things I think that were huge. And then add to that a few drops, okay, that may or may not have been the difference in the game, but they certainly would have helped take big chunks of yardage. I think those three things stand out to me the most.
All right, let's get to the next question. And it comes from JSJ297. Who can we put in the slot and actually be a legit middle field threat? I mean, Samaj isn't that guy. O'Leary, match him up with a backer. I don't think they're ready to give up on Samaj. I think they need Samaj to be more
No,
consistent, but they aren't ready to give up on him. But that doesn't mean that he's the only guy that they can play in the slot either.
no, that's right. I think and a second tight end is always good too, because you get some run defenses in there that might allow the middle of the field to open up a little bit. Whenever you remember, as soon as you switch personnel, they switch their thinking defensively. Okay, if you got 11 personnel in there with three wide receivers, they have a package to combat that. You put 12 personnel in there with two tight ends, they'll think a little bit more run, which could allow for some of these vertical threats. So there's answers that go beyond putting a wide receiver in there. Not that that's not a bad idea either, but if this is where I think a guy like Klein can be a factor, and maybe in the slot, who knows? Now he usually plays in line, but because he can run, maybe he's another answer when you get a tight end that you feel can handle in line. You know what I mean? Your starting tight end sometimes can be your move guy if you got another tight end that can play in line. So I'm not saying that's the thing, but he may be one of those answers.
All right. Next one comes from Andres Martinez. Al, does Michigan rush for 200 yards versus USC?
I don't know, but if they rush for 150 and throw for 200, 250 and don't turn it over, I'm betting they win the game. I don't know whether they rush for 200 yards or not, and I hate putting it on them. But they better be a threat rushing the football, or this is going to be a long day. Okay. Last year, they won the game because they could rush the football. And really, that's the only reason they won the game, if the truth be told, offensively. But they don't have to depend on that as much this year. So, 150 yards, 180 yards, that in a good, solid passing game that doesn't give it to the other team, that'd be good. And you can score 30, 35 points doing that. And our defense is good enough, I think, to hold them to less than that, even though they are good on offense. And that's probably the solution, but I won't put a particular number on it.
They can run the football on USC. I mean, USC.
I'd be surprised if they couldn't. Yeah. I would be surprised if they couldn't.
Yeah, USC had to put everybody at the line of scrimmage for Michigan not to run the football on them.
Yeah, my guess, Sam, this is going to be one of those games where the defensive coordinators is, I'm going to make Bryce Underwood beat us. He's a freshman. He's in another hostile environment. Let's see what he can do. But I'm not going to watch Justice Hayes rush for 200 yards on us. I don't want that to happen. Not that they can avoid it, because if everybody does what they can do, you can still get 200 yards on them. But their thinking is going to be make the young inexperienced quarterback in a hostile environment beat us.
All right, next one. Neil Wiggins, tell me how you really feel, Neil. Gorgeous. Why, or what is it that causes an offensive line to be decent at run blocking but garbage at passing?
It really is two completely different skills. Pass protection is more of a, you're kind of, particularly the tackles, you're kind of in a retreat mode. You know what I mean? Where run blocking is more blast off the ball, combination blocks, gap blocking. You are the aggressor, so to speak. Okay. Whereas pass blocking, you're basically protecting. You're protecting. You're not attacking. You know what I mean? And some guys are just better at one than they are the other, and some guys are good at both. And usually, how much you practice it makes a difference too. I mean, if you practice throwing all the time, I mean, if you're a team that just throws the hell out of the ball, your linemen become good pass protectors, but it's highly unlikely that they're going to be good run blockers. So you'd like to find that delicate balance, and that's what Michigan, I think, for the most part, has done a very good job of, is having players that can, that could block for the run and block for the pass. But when you want to run the ball like they do, maybe something gives a little bit sometimes. I know that's happened with me, but I promise you, they ain't going to be from lack of working on pass protection, because they're going to be doing plenty of that. So. But I don't even know if I answered that question, but that's my thinking.
All right. On to the next one. Jester Jinx, thanks for the super chat. Gorgeous. What is the secret under the radar method Michigan needs to employ to beat USC? Can they do it? Can they beat the Trojans, Al?
Oh, hell yes. Yeah, they can beat the Trojans. I really want them to beat the Trojans. I'm just telling you, I don't like the Trojans very much, and I want this show to be pleasant. That's just my own ego. So that doesn't really matter at all. But yes, where I see, and Sam just mentioned it, I think they can run the ball on. They have not. Uh, I don't think they've had an aggressive run defense since Pete Carroll left that team. And they've had games where they weren't bad, but the consistency of the run defense has been inconsistent, if that makes any sense. So I think they can run the ball. And if they can run the ball, then that means that they're probably able to play pass and limit the amount of times that you have to drop back pass and put people in tough situations, But I think that's where it starts with them. And that doesn't mean, now, understand, doesn't mean you got to come out there try to mow them over from the first snap. Let's chip away at them a little bit. You know what I mean? Chip away at them a little bit and throw some play passes, run the ball, throw some play, maybe throw a reverse in there. And then as the game goes on, you wear their ass down, okay, and you pound them. Because I think Michigan's won, I don't know how many games that way, but I think that is the ingredient in this game is don't get behind, don't get way behind because of, a bunch of stuff you didn't anticipate, and stay in your game. And I think they'll win this game.
All right, on to I should put this on the screen, but I can't help it.
Oh, here we go. When I was at UCLA, we beat the Trojans 8 years in a row. Okay, now I was part of 3 of those. So just so I didn't do it all good. Part of that's due to the late great Terry Donahue, but we didn't have to listen to them for a long time. And they're only 14 miles away now. They're not a long way away. They're only 14 miles across town. And the guys work across the desk at work. They're always, you're very familiar with your rival, and more familiar there than any place I've ever coached. So, and I grew up actually a Notre Dame fan when I was a little kid. So I learned to hate SC at an early age. And then when I went to UCLA, it was just a natural to hate them. But I got here and we never played them, and they played them in Rose Bowl, I know before, but we never played them. So we never really brought out the disdain in me. But now that they're on the schedule and in the league, I'm back. I'm getting those same feelings I got when I was at UCLA.
All right. Steve Horn, Gorgeous, we ran 2 G leads for touchdowns out of the I formation. Do you like that play in short yardage? We ran in 4th and short in the field instead of some of our shotgun plays in short yardage.
Yeah, I think, and they'll use it in the field. You've seen it in the field before. That play brings a tear to my eye. I'm just telling you, man. When we used to do the telestrations, we would occasionally show a G lead, but Sam always thought it was kind of a boring play, even if it was score a touchdown. So I said, Sam, we got to show him a G lead here somewhere because it's been so good. But I had, in my 30 years of coordinating, 43 years of coaching, that play scored more touchdowns than any play I ever called. And I put number 2 is way behind it. It was always in the offense, and it was always effective. We always tried to find a way to run the G lead. It didn't matter what school I was at or what personnel we had. If we had to put an offensive lineman at tight end, we'd do it. But the G lead is near and dear to my heart. So every time they score, I mean, I don't always get a tear in my eye, but figuratively, I get a tear in my eye.
All right.
Am I keeping you up here, Sam?
No. It's just all my days are long, Al. Jack Cooper says, Sam or Al, what do you think about Michigan practicing at the Chargers facility, getting ready for USC this week? I love it. Do you think Jim will give some coaching? Of course. So Jimmy will head over. I don't know how much USC he watches, but bet you he gives Sharon a play or 2.
I don't know. Are they practicing at the Chargers facility? Is that the plan? I don't know. Yeah, or is that just something he's throwing out? I don't know.
Yeah, he's gonna get over there and get some time with old Jimmy.
Yeah, I promise you, Harbaugh, I know who he wants to win. So, but that'd be cool. That would be cool.
Yeah, Sharon calls you anyway, and this is just to give him some time to get some up close personal time as well. So, yeah, man, he'll get some advice. I love it too. But that leads into a next, it piggybacks with this next question really, really well, Al, from your experience. Do you change any routine this week to adjust to the time difference out west, Al?
Well, that's a great question because this has been dabbled with by every head coach in America. First thing I would do is I would see if you can't get the schedule that Penn State used to play UCLA and do everything opposite of that, okay? Because that didn't work too good. But what you'd like to do is get out there. It would be nice if you could get there on Thursday, but I don't know if that's their plan. It is not critical. You can go Friday and still be fine. But get there early enough to where you can get used to the time change.
Right.
It is a night game, right, Sam? It's a 7:30 game. That helps some. That helps some because now you can. I'd rather have a night game if I had to go West Coast than I would a day game. Now, some people would argue that, but I like that extra 3 hours that you get to get your body straight and everything, but the earlier you can get out there, probably the better. But in terms of the routine, I would keep the routine pretty much the same, but it may be you just go at a different time but try to keep things as consistent as they've done in the past because that's actually worked pretty good.
I'll find out. I'll ask if they will cross paths. I wonder if there'll be an opportunity. I'll find out tonight and let you guys know over on the message board if they'll cross paths. I'll ask tonight. Next one. Let's see. Would come from Joe. Al, as far as offensive recruiting, do you think we'd be better off recruiting a pure tackle or guard who is great at his position instead of guys that can play several positions?
No, I would recruit the best athlete and make him fit. Don't say, oh, he's got to be a tackle, he's got to be a this. You know what I mean? Now, obviously, you're going to recruit certain kids in mind, with playing tackle at the top of your mind. But by the same token, if they can't, they're not athletic to block them. It doesn't matter if they played tackle in high school the whole time. You know what I mean? Get the best, the most athletic kids you can get, and then pick the best 5 and fit them where they best can execute what they need to do. But don't get too caught up in he's got to be a guard, he's got to be a tackle. I don't think that's always the best approach.
All right, Al, we can wind down. And so Steve came up with a good one. He says, Steve Horn says, Sam, get Al to tell you about all the trick plays he caught against the Trojans back in the day. He emptied the bag on them. Al, any trick plays stick out?
Sam, we have a lot of trick. I'm not going to say, but we remember I told you, anytime it's a rival game, you've heard me, I always kept a locker of plays that we weren't going to run against anybody else. And the Trojans were a high priority at the time. And not necessarily always just trick plays, just plays that maybe they hadn't seen before, and some trick plays too. And I work with Bob Toledo, who loved trick plays. I mean, he'd run 5 in a game. So, but yeah, we didn't hold anything back when we played them. And same thing, when we played Ohio State and when we played Alabama when I was at
Auburn. Seth Scott says, serious off-topic question, is Michigan appealing the NCAA? It's nice not to hear about it anymore, but also haven't heard if they actually did. They absolutely are. Did they, the formal filing? I assume they did. Have I verified that they actually filed? I've not gone through and verified that but I'm assuming that they absolutely did. Why would you let that linger or wait? They said they absolutely were appealing that. It's too much money. It's a joke. $20 to $30 million. Hell yeah, they were filing that. And I assume if even they were to lose the appeal, that wouldn't be the end of it. That would just be the end of it from the NCAA standpoint. They're going to try to charge you $20 million for something that is technically legal. Stealing. I bet you Michigan sues them in a court of law. That's me talking. That's not something that they said, but I bet you they get into a court of law. So, But a football question from Seth. I'll let you get it. We can close with this. What did you think of Andrew Marsh earning a wide receiver 2 spot, and how did he look in your eyes, Al?
I like him. Yeah, he looks like he's got what you're looking for. And he really hasn't been featured like he's going to be, I think. Okay? I think there's going to be a game you go, holy smoke, where'd that guy come from? But you based on what I saw, high ceiling, man. He's got a high ceiling. And again, I'm going to say it again, as a quarterback develops, so does Marsh, so does McCulley, so does someone else maybe that you didn't anticipate. Okay? So stay tuned on that one.
Right. I got to get Adam Shepard in there because Adam always asks great questions. Adam says, Coach, do you coach a QB to take off and run once leaving the pocket on third downs instead of trying to throw it across their body to a wide receiver, i.e. the Kendrick Bell drop?
Well, Kendrick Bell was wide open. Nobody covered him. He came from across the field, and I don't know how you can turn that down. You know what I mean? There is a point. I don't like what I call out-of-phase throws, where guys running to the sidelines and throwing it back into and I would tell the quarterback that's ill-advised, but when he's completely uncovered, you can't turn that throw down. No quarterback's turning that throw down. So, yeah, I'd like him to run if he sees the first down, but in that play, I would have thrown it. And I think Kendrick would be the first one to tell you he probably should have caught it. So, no, there's no blanket answer to that question, okay?
It would have been a tough. People are saying it would have been a tough catch for
it wasn't easy, no, but I think he got both hands on it. He can't go. He's capable. That kid's got talent. You know, he's capable of it. So, but the question was, would you throw it? I would have thrown it. He's just way too open to turn down. I think it would have. I think Kendrick would take it and run. God knows for how far.
You got a winner and a score for Saturday night's game, Al?
Oh, you know, I'm not really a prognosticator. I've made that clear, but they're going to need at least 35 to beat them, Sam. Okay, maybe at least 30, but 35 would make me sleep better. And I think SC's going to score some points, and it is at their place, and that's it's always a factor. No matter what you say, that's always a factor. So I'm going to say, realistically, I'll split in the middle. I'm going to say 33-28.
Gotcha. All right.
Could be wrong. 28's a lot for our defense because we don't give up 28, but these guys got some weapons. They always do, right? Always do. So.
Well, great stuff, Gorgeous Al Borges. They're going to try to get these Trojans for you, for me, for everybody, for themselves mostly.
Oh, please. I'm begging you, please.
We'll be back
please.
breaking it all down for you guys next week on the next edition of the Michigan Football Breakdown, focused on the offense with Al Borges. We'll see you then.
Go Blue.